Here on Denman, we are graced to live with trees. We plant, water, prune, conserve, and celebrate them. We harvest trees, use their wood, and eat their bounty. They warm us with fire and shade us from sun. We admire their beauty. They frame our views. We design and build with them. We paint, carve, make music and craft with them. We may hug them, listen to them, and bathe in their energy. They provide oxygen. Trees give us life.
First you cut out any dead or diseased branches or any branches that are crossing. And this being such an old tree has a lot of spurs on them that are congested. I've started to prune this one, but if you have a look over there you can see how the spurs are too congested. So I'm going to go over there and try and cut out some of the spurs so that the apples, when they actually fruit, have more space.
When the stem bends in the wind, the crystals get bent, and that creates a kind of electricity called piezoelectricity. And the piezoelectricity operates on some little tiny particles within the cells of the stem, and that affects the way new growth is laid down. As the trees at the side of the forest, they are exposed to wind, and two things happen. Firstly, the piezoelectricity in the stem directs the stem to grow conically, so it's uniform strength against the wind all the way up, unlike the stems in overcrowded stands. And it also directs growth to the root systems.
It comes from things like this. I started drawing these trees up I went up this road in the mountain after the first snowfall of the season. And it looked like it was heavy, but it wasn't. It was the first snow, so it was really only 3 inches of snow everywhere. And then drew this one that was sort of tipping over, and then kept going. And then just before I finished those ones, I filmed at nighttime these trees right outside my house, and they became the structural form for the paintings.
The cards she has that are of her paintings of trees, and just for how long she's been, and how diverse and multiple her images of trees are. I met with Anne DeCosson and Larry Berg of East Cider Orchard, and I took this photo of them propping up their old Blenheim orange apple tree. This tree is about 100 years old apparently, and was planted by the Lindsay Dixons, and the snow had laid it flat over the winter. They were waiting till the ground was really firm enough to allow them to do this. Anne and Larry have operated this orchard for decades now. They've planted some 1,000 trees, 70 different varieties from all over. We met with Jane Lighthall as well, and it was fun to hear Jane and Anne, who are old friends, talk about their work over the years with apple trees and the challenges of growing fruit trees on the West Coast in this wet climate. They talked with such interest about the history of apple production on Denman Island, which is a very rich history. And they talked about the bees, the importance of them to the trees, about apple blossom time. Peter Janes of Tree Eater Farm told me one of his favorite things is propagating trees. He had just propagated some new almond trees by grafting them to the rootstock of a plum tree. And then he went on to tell me an interesting story about one of his favorite trees on the property, a big cherry tree.
This cherry's 7 years old. Everything else in here is 7 years old too, for the most part, maybe 8. And it came from a handful of seeds, a fruit and nut mix that my friend Vali's parents sent them from Iran, because they're Persian. The nut mix had like dried cherries and pistachios and dried mulberries and almonds and stuff like that, all candied. But I started the seeds and ended up with about half a dozen of these plants, and this has been the fastest growing, most productive tree on the property. And it makes enormous volumes of really good sweet cherries. Yeah, you can luck out. A lot of the books and a lot of the sort of proper gardeners will say you should never bother starting things from seed because you won't get anything good. Mm-hmm. But my experience so far is not that. It's actually that you really find some interesting stuff, and the odds are actually good that you'll end up with something quite interesting and quite worth having.
Those are just a few people that I talked to about trees. It seemed that anyone I talked to during the course of this project has some interesting narrative, a personal story about trees, a connection to certain trees or something that's happened to them or a memory from childhood. The subject of trees is so vast. There are so many interesting things about trees. Trees have a dendritic pattern that repeats itself in many forms of plants, such as in this charred leaf. When a tree is cut, sometimes the tree covers its wound by growing this thick bark, even right over the stump. We know from Suzanne Simard's research at UBC that the tree does not do this by itself. It receives lots from the trees around it because trees are so interconnected via their complex root systems and the mycelia that connects them all to fungus and mushrooms in the forest floor. We are all learning about the intelligence and sentience of trees. There is science to show that trees lay witness to all around them, that they communicate in sophisticated ways, and that they have kinship recognition. But are we projecting too much on them?